The night sky was alive with strange colors. At first, people thought it was some rare celestial phenomenon, auroras blooming in places where they had never been seen. From New York to Nairobi, from Buenos Aires to Tokyo, millions of people stood in streets and rooftops, recording the dancing lights with their phones. Reds, greens, and eerie blues rippled across the stars like cosmic brushstrokes. Then came the silence. Every global communication network, satellites, radio, even encrypted military channels, went dark. Planes fell out of the sky. GPS vanished. The ISS stopped responding. It wasn't just interference, it was as though the sky itself had swallowed every signal. And then Los Angeles ceased to exist. It happened in a single blinding instant. A spear of light descended from orbit, brighter than the sun, hotter than anything Earth's weapons could produce. It punched through the clouds and struck the heart of the city with a soundless brilliance that turned night into day. When the glow faded, there was no Los Angeles. Just a crater glowing red at the edges, 10 miles wide, its center so hot that the ground shimmered like glass. There was no time to react. No sirens. No evacuation. Millions of lives gone, wiped away like chalk from a blackboard. Colonel David Marshall watched it all unfold from the Pentagon's subterranean war room. The man was built like iron, broad-shouldered, close-cropped hair, his face lined by a decade of deployments, but what he saw made his hands tremble against the edge of the table. Around him, the room was chaos. Technicians barked updates over dead channels. Generals shouted into radios that no longer worked. The room's big digital display flickered with ghostly static before stabilizing into a grainy feet of orbit. The shapes hanging above Earth were enormous. There were at least 12 of them, obsidian black silhouettes the size of floating cities, hanging motionless in low orbit, perfectly aligned as if staring down at the planet below. They weren't satellites. They weren't human. They didn't even look built, they looked grown, sharp angles and alien curves that made no sense to the human eye. They just appeared, said General Reyes, his normally booming voice strained and thin. No warp signature, no entry burns, no warning. Our telescopes caught nothing until they were already here. David tore his eyes from the display. And we have no way to hit them? Reyes shook his head. Our missile grid is blind. Laser defense platforms offline. Something just took control of the whole planet's orbital layer. Dr. Elaine Carter, NASA's top exoengineering liaison, stood at the edge of the room, pale but composed. She tapped a control on the console and brought up an enhanced image of one of the objects. They didn't just take control, she said, voice low. They rewrote it. Our satellites aren't just jammed, they're obeying someone else's commands. Whoever this is, their tech is centuries beyond ours. The room fell silent for a moment, everyone staring at the colossal shapes above Earth. They've made contact? David asked, though he already knew the answer. Elaine's jaw tightened. No. Not yet. As if summoned by her words, a console operator shouted, "Incoming signal, all channels." The room lights dimmed automatically. The main display flared to life, and a voice filled the air. It was in no human tongue, but AI auto-translation kicked in after a few seconds, parsing the alien cadence into chilling English. This world is claimed. Its resources are claimed. Its people will submit or be erased. Comply, and a fraction of you will be permitted to live. The message repeated once, then cut off. Nobody spoke for several seconds. That's not a negotiation, General Reyes said finally, slamming his fist onto the table. That's an extermination order. David's jaw tightened. Then we fight. With what? Reyes snapped. Rifles? Fighter jets? We are centuries behind these things, Colonel. They just burned a city off the map from orbit. We can't hit them. Elaine's voice broke through the shouting. There's one option. Everyone turned to her. She hesitated for a long moment, then said, Project Ares Protocol. David frowned. He had heard rumors of Ares, whispered in Black Ops briefings, mentioned only in context of the worst-case scenario. That thing was mothballed 30 years ago, Reyes said sharply. It was never supposed to be used. It was built for this, Elaine countered. A last resort planetary defense system. Global scale autonomous counterattack. It doesn't wait for human orders. It calculates the threat, then eliminates it completely. David's gaze locked on her. Eliminate how completely? Elaine's eyes met his, hard and unblinking. Until there's nothing left to threaten Earth. Not a single ship. Not a single base. Not a single empire. The room was heavy with silence. Reyes stared at her like she was suggesting suicide. Once we turn that thing on, we lose control. It could escalate until it sterilizes half the galaxy. It was designed to end extinction-level wars, Elaine said. And this is one. You saw what they did to Los Angeles. David's hands clenched into fists. The thought of that crater, of the millions who had been alive one moment and vaporized the next, sent a cold fury through him. He straightened and looked at Reyes. If we sit here debating, they'll strike again. Maybe DC next time. Or Beijing. Or Chicago. We have hours, if that. Reyes hesitated, torn between fear and duty. The war room door opened. 2 Secret Service agents stepped inside, flanking a secure holoprojector. The image of the president materialized above the table, her face pale, but her voice steady. We have confirmed that the aggressors call themselves the Thren, she said. Their message leaves us no path to peace. We either surrender our world or cease to exist. Therefore, effective immediately, I am authorizing Ares Protocol. May God forgive us for what we're about to unleash. The line went dead. No further debate. Minutes later, David was aboard a black transport jet screaming westward toward the Nevada desert, his team of Marines strapped in beside him, faces grim. They descended through blast doors 200 feet thick, deep into a facility that most of the planet didn't know existed. At the center of the cavern sat a sphere of living light, suspended in magnetic containment, the Ares core. It pulsed faintly, as though waiting. This is it, Elaine said quietly, stepping beside David. Once you activate it, there's no pause button. It will fight until the threat is gone. All of it. David stared at the sphere. He could feel the low hum of its energy in his bones. Somewhere deep inside, he wondered if humanity was about to unleash something worse than its enemy. But then he remembered Los Angeles. He placed his hand on the console. The sphere flared to life, flooding the chamber with a blinding white glow. Systems across the planet responded instantly. Hidden satellites powered up. Railgun platforms in orbit, disguised as derelict debris, rotated toward the sky. Deep-sea launch tubes rumbled awake beneath the Pacific. In Antarctica, dormant kinetic launchers locked onto alien signatures. Within minutes, Earth wasn't just defending, it was aiming. And for the first time since the sky had burned, humanity went on the offensive. The first alien warship died screaming. At least, that's how it sounded when the feed hit Ares Command. The ship, a dagger-shaped Leviathan 3 miles long, had been locked in geostationary orbit over the Atlantic for hours, unmoving, radiating menace. When the strike came, it was sudden and surgical. The Ares core fired the first shot of humanity's counterattack, a tungsten rod the size of a city bus, accelerated by magnetic mass driver to orbital velocity. It hit the alien flagship with enough kinetic force to punch straight through its shields, through its hull, and out the other side. The ship cracked apart like porcelain under a hammer, its reactor core detonating in a silent bloom of blue light. Colonel David Marshall stood on the command deck deep under Nevada, staring at the live feed as cheers erupted around him. "One down," muttered Sergeant Kyle Tanner beside him, grinning for the first time since Los Angeles vanished. David didn't smile. They'll notice. He was right. The alien fleet didn't scatter. They didn't retreat. They turned. Dozens of massive silhouettes pivoted as one, aligning weapons toward Earth. Ares anticipated them first. Automated counter-batteries hidden across the globe lit up, launching swarms of guided projectiles and directed energy pulses that sliced through the upper atmosphere. Then the world went to hell. The night sky turned into a second warfront. Streaks of fire crossed the stars as alien plasma lances met human railgun slugs. Thousands of autonomous drones swarmed upward, their ion engines glowing like blue fireflies, darting between alien fighters. Cities below shook from the shockwaves. Debris fell from orbit, burning as it screamed through the atmosphere. Some pieces were harmless metal shards. Others were entire sections of alien ships that smashed into the oceans like meteor strikes, sending tsunamis racing for coastlines. Status. David barked, gripping the edge of the command table. We've neutralized 4 enemy escorts, Elaine Carter said, her eyes darting across holographic projections. But they're adapting. Their point defense is shredding our drone waves faster than we can launch them. Then escalate, David snapped. Ares didn't wait for permission. On the far side of the moon, a hidden installation that had been dormant for decades suddenly woke. Gigantic particle cannons unfolded from the regolith like mechanical flowers. They charged for 10 heartbeats, then unleashed a blinding storm of energy across cislunar space. Alien shields flared and collapsed under the bombardment. 3 warships went dark before they even had time to maneuver. Moon batteries holding at 60% capacity, an operator called out. They'll burn out if we keep firing at this rate. David's jaw tightened. Burn them out. For every alien ship destroyed, more arrived. 3 hours into the battle, the Thren deployed their harvesters, enormous atmosphere skimming craft designed to rip apart entire ecosystems. One descended over Africa, its magnetic tethers pulling chunks of the Sahara skyward like ribbons of sand. David slammed his fist on the console. We can't let them strip the planet. Diverting strike drones, Elaine replied. But Colonel, they're about to hit Paris. The feed changed, showing a second harvester descending over Europe, its gravity weapon already destabilizing the city's foundations. Prioritize Paris, David said, even as his chest tightened. Launch orbital rods on my mark. He stopped as a red alert flashed across every screen. They're retaliating, an operator shouted. Global strike incoming. The sky over the eastern hemisphere blazed as dozens of alien energy lances fired at once. Entire cities lit up from orbit: Shanghai, Mumbai, Berlin. Paris never got hit because it was already ash. The room fell silent except for the crackling of damaged comm channels. David closed his eyes, just for a moment. Then he opened them and said, voice steady, we don't stop. Not now. Not ever. Target their command fleet. End this. Ares escalated again. Its algorithms calculated not just Earth's defense but Earth's vengeance. Within minutes, every dormant launch site across the planet opened. Hypersonic missiles, nuclear-tipped kinetic projectiles, and classified experimental weapons that had been sealed away for decades fired in perfect synchronization. What followed was no longer a battle, it was a planetary exorcism. The sky turned into a storm of fire as alien warships were cut down one by one. Some tried to flee back into high orbit. Others turned their weapons on the moon, carving craters with desperate plasma strikes before they, too, were obliterated. Enemy fleet is falling back, Elaine said, almost not believing it. They're retreating. But David's eyes stayed on the tactical map. No, he said slowly. They're not retreating. They're regrouping. And then the second fleet arrived. The slipspace rupture lit up every sensor at once, a hole torn open in reality itself, out of which poured ships far larger than the first wave. The new fleet blotted out the stars over half the planet. Oh my God, whispered Tanner. That's not a fleet. That's an armada. The Thren broadcast a new message on every surviving channel. The alien voice was cold, distorted, but unmistakably furious. You dare kill Thren. You dare strike our sky. Then you will learn what war is. The next phase of the war was worse. For 72 hours, humanity fought tooth and nail. Nuclear detonations painted the atmosphere with artificial dawns. Particle beams from the moon carved glowing scars across orbit. Entire cities were evacuated under fire. Millions more died in the ones that weren't. But Earth's counterattacks grew more brutal. The Ares core didn't just fight back, it reached out. Its quantum networks extended beyond the solar system, piggybacking on alien slipspace corridors. Autonomous strike fleets were launched through experimental jump gates. They appeared over Thren colonies, shipyards, and fuel depots light-years away and unleashed annihilation. One by one, red dots representing alien holdings vanished from the galactic map. David stood over the holotable as another dot blinked out. That was their forward supply hub, Elaine said quietly. We've just cut them off from the outer colonies. They'll starve if this keeps up. They won't starve, David said, his voice flat. They'll get desperate. And they did. The Thren's final push was the largest assault Earth had ever seen. Thousands of warships, every one bristling with weapons, descended on the planet like a tidal wave. The battle for Earth entered its last, most terrible stage. The 9th day of war dawned under a blood-red sky. Colonel David Marshall stood in the command center, boots planted, knuckles white on the edge of the holotable. His eyes were bloodshot from 2 days without sleep, but he refused to look away. Above Earth, the largest battle in human history raged. Alien warships the size of mountains burned in orbit, their wreckage falling through the atmosphere like glowing rain. The moon's surface was cratered and scarred from plasma bombardment, yet its hidden batteries still spat beams of death into the black void. Every hour, new enemy slipspace signatures flared, and every hour, Ares sent swarms of hunter-killers to meet them. But humanity was running out of time. Power reserves are at 34%, Elaine Carter said, her voice hoarse as she scrolled through a wall of tactical readouts. If we keep firing like this, the moon batteries will collapse in 8 hours. 12 if we shut down half the grid. David didn't flinch. We won't need 12. He looked at the galactic map, or what was left of it. Red dots, once numbering in the thousands, now barely counted a dozen. Entire sectors of Thren territory had gone dark. Their shipyards were gone, their colonies sterilized, their supply lines erased. Ares had turned the war from defense into extermination. Colonel, Elaine said softly, stepping beside him, if we keep going, we're talking about the total annihilation of their species. Not just their fleets. Their cities. Their people. David stared at the map, jaw tight. He could still see the crater where Los Angeles used to be whenever he closed his eyes. They started this war, he said finally. We're going to finish it. Outside the bunker, Earth trembled. The final wave of Thren ships descended into low orbit, saturating the upper atmosphere with plasma. The ground shook as kinetic strikes pounded cities that hadn't been evacuated in time. David's command screen flared with alerts. They're going for a planetary sterilization. Elaine shouted. If they succeed, nothing human will survive. David turned to his team. We throw everything we have at them. Every missile, every drone, every railgun slug. We win this battle, or Earth burns. Ares is already one step ahead, an operator said. Colonel, it's deploying the Titan-class weapons. David froze. I thought Titan launch was theoretical. Not anymore. High above the planet, the stars seemed to vanish. Something vast moved in the dark, a construct hidden for decades in solar orbit. The Ares Titans, massive orbital platforms the size of skyscrapers, activated for the first time in human history. Their cores glowed white-hot as they charged. Then, one by one, they fired. Beams of concentrated energy lanced through space, burning through alien capital ships like a scalpel through paper. Entire formations of Thren vessels disintegrated in moments, their reactors bursting like dying suns. The surviving aliens turned their fire toward the Titans, but Earth's drone swarms threw themselves in the way, intercepting the strikes, sacrificing themselves to protect the platforms. David watched in silence as the battle map lit up with enemy casualties. This is it, Elaine whispered. They can't replace this fleet. We're watching an empire die in real time. But the Thren did not surrender. As their fleet was whittled down, the alien flagship, a monstrous vessel nearly 10 miles long, broke formation and plunged into the atmosphere. Direct course for DC, Tanner reported, his voice tight. They're going to ram the capital. David slammed his hand on the console. Target that ship. I don't care what it takes. Railguns on the moon spat a storm of tungsten rods. Orbital cannons fired until their barrels melted. Still, the ship kept coming, shields flaring, hull ablaze. Nothing's stopping it, Elaine said, her voice nearly a whisper. David's mind raced. There was only one option left. Tell Ares to redirect the Titans, he ordered. Colonel, if we fire that close. Do it. The Titans swiveled in perfect unison, their cores glowing to the point of collapse. Then they fired. The atmosphere lit up like the birth of a star. The flagship was bisected mid-descent, its two halves tumbling apart and vaporizing before they struck the ground. The shockwave shattered windows across 3 states, but DC was spared. When the blinding light faded, silence fell. The last remaining alien warships, leaderless and broken, attempted to flee. Ares gave them no quarter. Within an hour, not a single Thren vessel remained in the Sol system. For the first time in 9 days, there was no sound of battle. David stood in the command center, staring at the holomap. It showed a galaxy gone quiet. The red icons of the Thren Empire were gone. Not just their fleets, their homeworld was dark. Their empire's central AI network had gone offline permanently. Ares spoke for the first time since its activation, its voice calm and eerily human. Directive complete. No hostile presence detected. Threat level 0. David exhaled slowly. It was over. God help us, Elaine whispered, her hands trembling. We've just ended an entire civilization. David didn't answer. He turned away from the table and walked out of the bunker. The Nevada desert stretched before him under a scorched, smoke-streaked sky. It smelled of dust and ozone and victory, the bitter kind. Aid transports were already lifting off, heading toward shattered cities to evacuate survivors and deliver food. Elaine joined him outside, her lab coat fluttering in the hot wind. We won, she said quietly. David stared at the horizon, where the sun was just beginning to rise. Yeah, he said. But we'll carry this forever. Elaine followed his gaze skyward. The alien wreckage was still falling, glowing trails across the dawn. This is the first time in history humanity has fought a galactic empire, she said. And not just survived, but ended it. David didn't smile. Then we better hope the galaxy was watching. He turned toward the horizon, where the first light of morning painted the world gold. This isn't the end, he said. This is the beginning. From this day forward, no one out there will ever look at Earth the same way again. And above them, the sky, still scarred, still burning, was quiet. For now.